Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. Saturday night.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I'm not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come.
Well, last night I told you about an aircraft carrier that's been at sea for 9 months with 2 days ashore. Tonight, the commander-in-chief told the country that 9 months wasn't nearly long enough. On the same day, we learned that he is ordering the Navy to rip out its jet launch systems for a redesign nobody in the Navy asked for. Now, that's not one bad headline. That is a pattern. Micromanaging the parts of the military that don't matter, mismanaging the parts that do, and leaving sailors to eat the difference. Now, y'all, welcome to the Hillbilly Think Tank with Spencer Keck. I am the educated hillbilly, and no, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated hillbillies here in Kentucky ever since my kith and kin came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone and the other long hunters on their quest for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they found it and established it right here, scrapping with grit and determination. They established it here. Again, I'm Spencer Keck, retired Navy Doc, combat veteran, currently a public school teacher, and I'm a candidate for magistrate on the Hardin County Fiscal Court, District 3. Tonight is part 2 of a story I wish I didn't have to keep on covering. Segment 1, a pet project nobody in the Navy asked for. Now, Politico reported Friday that Trump has ordered future Ford-class carriers to scrap their electromagnetic Catapult system and go back to steam-powered launchers, the older technology the Navy moved away from years ago. This is not a minor tweak. It means redesigning the ship, and a government report already found the new carrier class is running billions with a B over budget before this change even hits the books. Now, defense budget analyst Todd Harrison, an Air Force veteran at the American Enterprise Institute, that's a conservative think tank, not some left-wing outfit, told Politico the move is highly unusual and disruptive for the Navy, especially since it's a change the Navy itself never requested. Senator Mark Kelly, a former Navy combat pilot himself who's flown on and off of those aircraft carriers many times, he has publicly questioned why a decision like this isn't being left to Navy engineers. And the last I recall, this president does not have a degree even close to Navy engineering, to shipbuilding, to any engineering. He does not have a science degree of any kind. A U.S. official put it plainly to Politico. The Navy is coming under the gun with ships pushing their limits in the Middle East and the Caribbean, and no end is in sight for them. So while sailors on the USS Lincoln are rationing food, the President of the United States is spending political capital and taxpayer dollars refighting a catapult argument the Navy already settled by their engineers years and years ago. Now, let me just give my little spin on this, because I've been on aircraft carriers that use those catapults, the steam kind of catapults. And you know what steam is? Dangerous, very dangerous. That's why when it was possible to move to electromagnetic catapults, a dangerous job like that you find on aircraft carrier flight decks took one little step down and it's extreme danger. It's already dangerous enough. Taking the steam out of it, that when we talk about steam, we're not just talking about steam like, oh, I'm pouring a little hot steam to make some tea. We're talking about hot air, so hot that it will burn anyone that it's released on down to the bone. How do I know this? I've had to take care of casualties burnt from steam like that in steam power plants on another type of ship that I served on. And that is not, I've seen some nasty burns in combat and other situations. That was the worst burn that I've seen. Went down to the bone on the sailor that it burned, filled up the lungs and burnt them on the way. So you want to talk engineering, you want to talk stupidity. This is the most freaking stupid, I want to use the other word so bad on air, decision that I have freaking seen coming. And I've seen some stupid crap being pushed around by this administration. But this takes it, saying that sailors on aircraft carriers now have to go backwards to a more dangerous situation on those flight decks. You don't understand a flight deck if you've never been on one. Watching Top Gun doesn't give you the idea of how nearly danger-ridden it is every single time you go to flight quarters. The people who are on the flight decks, they get paid extra pay on top of their regular pay just to be on the flight deck during flight operations. An airplane is not designed naturally to take off on such a short runway. They have to have a catapult launch it off in addition to the jet engines. That catapult catapults literally the whole aircraft. And he wants to go back to add more danger to that by making it steam instead of, he's no clue of engineering, but somehow, I don't know if he watched Top Gun and saw the steam rising from the decks and thought that was just so freaking cool. What is this guy's problem? That's what I want to know. Tell me. All right, we got Coffee Cats on here. Thanks, Coffee Cats, for being on tonight. Coffee Cats, thank you. Coffee Cat says, hey, y'all, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also says, that kind of burn sounds extremely painful. Worse than extremely painful. Like I said, it gives me chills just thinking about that patient that I saw with that burn. So, Coffee Cats, why does he want to go back to steam, though? And that's exactly it. What is in his brain for a man who's never been in the military, got 5 deferments from serving in combat. 5 other people had to go to Vietnam for him when he got those 5 deferments. And he thinks he knows everything about the U.S. Navy. Why he's so stuck on the Navy, I don't know. Well, we know he likes the Village People. And I guess In the Navy is one of his favorite songs along with YMCA. That's the only thing I can figure. what his obsession is with, ships that are obsolete and parts of ships that have been obsolete for years. I want to bring back battleships, which are freaking obsolete in this modern Navy. But a man that has no freaking clue of anything to do with real military science current military science thinks he's the freaking genius on this. And again, like I said, it's so hard for me not to say Fucking. But yeah. All right, Tom, thanks for being on here. Tom says, great, I'm up past my bedtime, but here we are. Yeah, just got done. My wife got her last meds. She's back home, thank goodness. All right, Tom says he wants to go back to Steam because he's a Philistine. I just, trying to figure it out. I don't know. He must have an obsession with Tom Cruise and Top Gun from the 80s. Tom says he can see steam. He can't see magnetic fields. That's it. And he's a big example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And that's it. We've gone over this before. I did a whole episode on the Dunning-Kruger effect, explained the Dunning-Kruger effect, and explained how this man and everybody in the administration so far has this Dunning-Kruger effect. That's the effect where idiots think they're geniuses and then want to force everyone to listen to what they think is genius talking, and it's not. All right, copycats, LOL. He is that shallow. It probably is the reason why. And he is. He's shallow, watches movies, can't read a full novel, Yeah, so seen the movie far too many times, thinks that he's a genius and that he has to go back to what he's seen in the movies, which is steam, catapults, and battleships. Lord have mercy on my soul. All right, so segment 2, not nearly long enough. Now, here's the part, y'all, that should make every military family in this country absolutely furious and screaming in the streets. Asked about the USS Lincoln's nearly 9-month deployment, the one we covered last night, with the overboard incidents and the families begging for answers. Trump told reporters it had been not nearly long enough, their deployment out there. Hegseth's answer was not much better at all. Visiting Panama, he brushed off the concerns with this statement: some deployments are longer than others. I want to be fair to the full quote, because Hegseth did also say he has more respect and gratitude for those sailors than anybody, and praised what they do in high seas and austere conditions. I'll try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard for me to do that to Whiskey Pete. But you don't get to praise sailors in one sentence and then wave off their family's fear right in the next. That is not leadership, y'all. That is a talking point, and a talking point only. Senator Chris Coons, the top Democrat on defense appropriations, said Trump and Whiskey Pete Hegseth owe these sailors and their families an apology, and that if they can't take care of the troops under their watch, they should step aside for leaders who can. Strong words from a sitting senator. I don't think that they're wrong at all. Those words are correct. Acting Navy Secretary Hung Cao, to his credit, struck a very different tone. He confirmed the USS Lincoln is finally heading back to port and said plainly that our young men and women have been pushed to their limits, though he added they have never broken, which we know, sadly, is a lie. That's a Navy secretary trying to be honest about the strain while still standing up for his sailors. Now, compare that tone to not nearly long enough and tell me which one sounds like it's actually done the job. Because apparently Hung Cao has been around the job. Segment 3, micromanagement and mismanagement are the same failure. Y'all, like I said, I am an independent duty corpsman by trade, retired from it in the Navy, served, taking care of sailors and Marines, both, depending on some units I was with were just Navy units. Others I was with Marine infantry, Marine special operations. And this is just something that I cannot fathom how This Dunning-Kruger president, as Tom is pointing out, is somebody that we really think is fit to say the things he's saying. You know, the battleships things, that was bad enough. But forcing the Navy to go backwards to steam catapults, which are dangerous as crap, when we don't have enough money as it is, according to them, to even fight this current combat situation that we're in, don't have enough missiles. You know, he wants to retrofit every single carrier with this steam catapult that is far more dangerous when we have an engineering marvel in these electromagnetic catapults. It's beyond me now, fully beyond me. Copycat said a novel, he can't read a full paragraph, and that's correct. We know he's never read a full novel, not even a full paragraph. So again, what are we doing? This leadership, he's prioritizing his pet projects over the welfare of the crew on the USS Lincoln. They're crap rations, and yet, what I found interesting, I was talking to a veteran friend of mine last night. This president, that this whole administration, they make sure that every one of those jets has enough fuel to go on its bombing missions constantly and its sorties constantly over to Iran. So if they can get fuel out to those planes on the aircraft carrier, why can't they get quality food, quality rations? That's what I want to know. And it's absolutely freaking time for this to get taken care of. Now, an angry voter, I see your comment, we'll come back to it. Now, here's the pattern, plain and simple, y'all. You know, you've got a commander-in-chief personally dictating catapult engineering to Navy shipbuilders, a fight that the Navy did not pick and does not even want, while an extended, mismanaged deployment tied to the Iran conflict grinds down the actual human beings doing the actual job, micromanaging what doesn't matter, mismanaging what does matter the most. Both failures land on the same sailors. And I spent 24 years watching good leadership and bad leadership up close with my own two eyes and with my own body. Good leadership spends its energy protecting the people underneath it. What we're watching here is energy spent somewhere else entirely on a legacy technology fight, while the people actually at sea run out of food and hope. Why would we put anyone out of hope? That's what I'm asking. So, you know, this is, just absolutely insane. All right, real quick before we go to the next one. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do the Steel Man tonight, even though I read it and wrote it, but we'll think about it. I don't know if there really is. To me, there is no other side of this argument. So I'm not sure. I'll have to think about whether I'm going to waste time on it or not. Let's look at what Angry Voter USA 28 said. All right, he said, what happened to Megan Wingfield? Is she still running for office? Well, I saw her personally and talked to her just a few weekends ago at Fancy Farm Picnic. And I've seen other posts of hers, other places doing things. So yeah, pretty sure she is. Matter of fact, not pretty sure. I mean, from what I've seen, I haven't heard anything about her doing anything but running. She's around the state constantly campaigning, and good on her. She's doing a good job of it. All right, Angry Voter USA 28 says, what next? Besides steam catapults, we go back to the ironclad as well. Now, remember, this president talks about loving aesthetics. And he said it was the aesthetics of the current Navy ships that displease him so much. That's why he wants to make a beautiful battleship. And he wants it named after himself. Remember, he wants this new class of battleships to be named after himself. So again, battleships, outdated. That type of naval warfare is not what we're running anymore. Matter of fact, you put something that big out there with the drone technology that's out there now. Yeah, yeah. So, but ironclads wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing. So I guess Angry Voter, honestly, that's the only reason that he probably isn't trying to push us to go back to ironclads. although battleships are as close as you can get to ironclads. So, all right, now, yes, we know that our electromagnetic launch systems have had some documented reliability problems, but that's not new. And it's, basically they work under combat conditions. So this is a reliable system that they've been working out. And it's the main thing for me is if the Navy engineers decided this is good to go, the admirals have liked it, and it's safer, then hey, why on earth would he be micromanaging this? Why doesn't he micromanage getting food to people? Then if the catapult thing really is an issue and electromagnetics catapults really aren't better than the steam ones, take care of your people first. Get them food and then work this one out. Or it looks like you're just the crazy grandpa in the background, right? Now, again, you don't have to be a uniquely partisan person to see this as a problem. So for me, even if those steam catapult, that debate has real engineering merit, the not nearly long enough comment this president made and the some deployments are longer than others comment, those aren't engineering comments. Those are two comments made by a commander-in-chief and a secretary of defense that just like to bloviate and have their pet projects that have nothing to do with defense, right? And those two comments that they made, they're dismissals of families who are scared, aimed at people who can't talk back to their commander-in-chief. I mean, if you've served in the military, you know that. Military folks can't come out and say duty. And so they need us to be the pushback for them. That's the long and short of it. And the only way that a couple of them have talked back is by jumping overboard. That's their talking back. And that's extreme, but that's the way it is. I know what it's like to see people push to that limit, as I talked to you last night, and I don't think there's any reason for it to come to this. All right, Copycat says, is it any wonder we are laughed at by other countries? Yeah, good, very good question. Angry Voter USA 28, we need to relieve all of these dipwad, gutless, spineless military commanders. They blindly follow orders and do not obey their oath. And so again, tonight, I've got to give a shout out. Remember, the last time that this man was president, when he was president number 45 during the COVID epidemic, he had another aircraft carrier commander who had a spine. That was the CEO, commanding officer of the Theodore Roosevelt, USS Theodore Roosevelt. The Roosevelt had lost so many of its sailors to COVID, literally by death and by them being in the intensive care unit of the ship, because the aircraft carrier is large enough to have that. Then the ICU was overflowing, so the whole medical bay was full of people that were sick and dying of COVID. The CO have been begging for his chain of command to do something about it, to get them the help they needed. They could not safely operate that ship with all of its dangers that I went over last night on the aircraft carrier, any ship to boot. The ship could not run safely, especially not in harm's way as it was. And when his chain of command did not help his sailors, he wrote a letter to the press. And when that letter got out, that enraged this president and all of his sycophants in his administration. He sent the acting Secretary of the Navy, because there wasn't one that was full Secretary of the Navy at the time, flew that person out to the Middle East, wherever they were, Asia, somewhere that the aircraft carrier had pulled into. If I remember correctly, it was the Middle East. And the acting Secretary of the Navy came on board and sacked the CO, drug him off the ship. Every one of the crew members on that ship was cheering on their commanding officer, Navy captain, which would be a colonel, of course, in the Army or the Marine Corps. So this full bird Navy captain escorted off, brought in an interim commanding officer, and when the Secretary of the Navy, acting Secretary of the Navy, heard the crew cheering on their commanding officer for having the balls to stand up for them.
It's an emergency. But this thing's still beeping.
Then they...
You don't care?
They cheered him. The acting Secretary of the Navy
Okay,
chewed them out online for cheering on their CO for caring about them. You go look it up online. You can hear him chewing them out on the loudspeaker over the whole ship for loving their commanding officer. So that's where we're at now. Every family in Hardin County, in this district, living in real time, a spouse deployed, a kid asking why dad or mom's ship keeps not coming home. When leadership treats that fear as public relations inconvenience instead of a command responsibility, it tells every family in Hardin County exactly how much they matter to the people at the top. Fiscal court does not run the Navy, but it teaches you the same lesson every single meeting. The job isn't the ribbon cuttings and the pet projects. The job is where the people who depend on you can trust you handled the boring, hard, unglamorous stuff. The budget, the roads, the water system, before you went looking for a legacy project. That's the standard I'll hold myself to, and it's the standard I think we should hold anyone to who has troops or taxpayers depending on them. Now, final take. A president fighting his own Navy over 1950s technology, a defense secretary saying some deployments are just longer than others, a Navy secretary quietly trying to bring his people home and tell the truth about what it cost them. Only one of those three sounds like leadership to me. So I'm asking you all, what is it that you look for in leadership? Is this it? Are we looking for sycophants that will do anything that a leadership with the Dunning-Kruger effect thinks is cool? Senator Mark Kelly's criticism is correct, right? Trump knows nothing about what he's working on with his pet project. So y'all, I'm Spencer Keck, the educated hillbilly, and this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. Come to a fiscal court meeting. Bring your hardest questions. Whether I earn your vote or not, but I hope I do, we will get an answer together. I'll see you there. Keep thinking deeply. And remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. That's not just words on a flag. It's the glue that holds us together. Because if we love our neighbors as ourselves and recognize that, yes, we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, then we cannot be divided and we will not fall. Remember, everyone deployed overseas, because as we've been talking about tonight, it's not good right now for them. And bless your corazón, that is Spanish for heart. This has been paid for by Spencer Keck. Doc out.